Welcome to episode 20 of Curious Conversations. We have our man Harry Young back in. Harry was on episode 4 and probably one of the most feedback we've had off of people.
I think it's the most viewed on YouTube.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
That's saying something, mate.
Yeah.
Flattered.
So we're having him back on, and we want to make this a thing we're chatting about maybe every 15 episodes. This one's not going to be more like an interview of Harry. The first little bit is going to be just from his recent experiences. However, we are going to kind of just have a conversation. We're all real good pals, and we have quite a lot of things that we all connect over, and we want to chat about them in a little bit of depth. But the first thing we want to chat about with Harry is his recent health circumstances. He has been shot in the head pretty much.
Yeah.
He's
tried to kill a guy.
They tried to kill a guy. Do you want to tell us a little bit about
I
what's
feel like
been
that's as good a place as any to start, because I think probably when I last hopped on, that was like around maybe end of Feb, start of March, and then my situation deteriorated quite quickly from that. So I suppose we might as well catch up on that. So a high level on this, and this is going to end up, I'll try and keep this as brief as possible, but I don't know if we talked about it when I was on before, but I basically was battling a long-term injury in my spine, and I'd had like 8 or 9 months of a failed rehabilitation process, basically for a bulging disc, what's called a herniated disc in my lumbar spine, my L5S1. It was initially herniated, and then at the end of March, it was getting significantly worse, and then I found out later on when I got an MRI that I'd suffered an extrusion, which basically means that my L5S1 disc had ruptured. So you become a bit of a spinal expert, right? Or when these things going on. But basically what that means is, obviously in your back you've got vertebrae. In between your vertebrae you have your intervertebral discs. They basically act as like shock absorbers, right? So when you're running or training hard or whatever, it's not bone on bone in your back. My L5S1 was initially bulging, and due to an extended period of compression, the outer layer of it ruptured and the inner layer of it was spilling out, absolutely demolishing my L5S1 nerve root, which meant that laterally by the end I was just on the floor in my flat for a month, sleeping on the floor, working on the floor. And it was really interesting because it's like you think you can do everything yourself, but like I was going to the NHS, and I'd had an MRI months before, obviously when it was a herniation, not when it was worse, but knew that I wouldn't send me for another one. Sent me for an x-ray. I knew that I didn't have any structural damage. And they were just throwing stronger painkillers at me, so that's why I got a private MRI, and then they were like, well, you have an extrusion, so you need surgery like ASAP. So 8 days after I got that MRI, I had surgery at the 29th of April, and five weeks and 5 days after surgery, I'm sitting here catching up with you guys. It's a bit of a whistle-stop tour, but high level. I had 8 or 9 months of failed rehabilitation for an ongoing back issue. Situation worsened, ended up getting spinal surgery at 27, and now we're just starting to rehabilitate it. That's what's been happening. Very high level. It's a bit of an information dump, but hopefully it sets the context.
No, that's perfect. So when we've kind of been seeing you through this process, obviously, like you've been on the DL a little bit, but a massive thing that you focused on, like obviously at the start was a little bit hard, as you said before we started, but you started to kind of progress and try and learn as much as you possibly could in that period. What's the biggest things you learned in that period, would you say?
This is a good question, and I would probably say before we go into it, I would split it into two things, because I have developed through my period, like through the initial period pre-surgery, so much more compassion for anyone that is dealing with a long-term chronic pain issue, because my nervous system was just destroyed from having the signal in my brain of pain all the time. And prior to getting surgery, it was literally just getting through the day, like taking the painkillers NHS were giving me, like probably, I was saying this to you before, like if I could think of all the ways to make someone unhealthy, that was like the 3 or 4 weeks post rupturing of the disc, like pre-surgery. That's what it was like. It was like no fresh air, screens all the time, prescription drugs, doom scrolling. But it was literally just like get to surgery and get out of pain. I was very lucky that I had the ability to kind of get surgery, and then once I was through that initial period of the chronic pain was gone, I could actually just like reset my brain a little bit. So as you've then alluded to, I've probably been a little bit quieter and kept on the DL, but I've really utilised that time to read and to meditate and to sit in the stillness and to look inward and see what's in there, because it's quite a unique set of circumstances. Like, I don't envisage another set of circumstances when I'll be 27 years old on full pay from work and kind of broadly be told not to move at all, just because while you do that initial bit of healing, you don't want to put any pressure on the spine. So it's quite a unique set of circumstances to be in, and I really didn't want to get to the end of that and be like, all I did was scroll my phone, watch TV, watch movies. Like, I really wanted to be like, well, I want to utilise that time for positive means and to actually try and get something from the period.
I think it's the power of awareness, isn't it? Because like you see so many people that will maybe have this similar injury to you, might have like that kind of the bulging disc, and because they're maybe not aware of like these things being bad for you, i.e. the doom scrolling, the sitting about, watching TV, eating like shit, they'll just think that's them now. But see, because you understand what's good for you, I feel like that's the power of awareness, being able to understand what's good from bad, and that's what you've done.
100%, and it's a really interesting thing about identity as well, because I'm someone like my view of myself is someone that's like fit and healthy and looks after themselves. So it's almost quite challenging when you can't do all of the things that you identify with. So it was it was a really interesting time of reflection. Like, I think one of the things about meditation generally is that it does really get you comfortable sitting for extended periods of silence in a room by yourself, which I think is really important. Like, there's a French philosopher called Blaise Pascal, right, from the 18th century, and he said most of mankind's problems stem from man not being able to sit in a room with his own thoughts. And I really think it's been really helpful for me, because I'm used to doing that a little bit, but to basically have had 4 weeks of being mandated not to move and to look inward and to see what's in there. Like, I do feel like it's actually been quite a transformative time, and weirdly I'm quite grateful for it, because the other thing is, you probably be both the same as me, like, you never stop. So much of modern society is like we never stop. We're so overstimulated. There's so many different things going on all the time. We all feel the pressure and the burden to be doing everything, to be chasing everything all the time. So it's quite almost like being forced to stop. Really kind of shifted the narrative and my perspective around what the benefits might be of just stopping around and taking stock and looking inwards for a minute. It's been genuinely a transformative period.
Yeah, like going back to what you said about like if you had a recipe for someone who felt depressed, and it's like being indoors all day long, like taking medication, staring at screens all day, like that, the things we talk about on like a daily basis. If I start to feel a little bit overwhelmed, if I start to feel like a little bit anxious, whatever, I will spend some time outside, but that's completely stripped away from you. Like, what was it like in the moment when you found, like, when you kind of found out, like, fuck, I'm going to be here, I'm going to be sat on this floor for like potentially months? What's that feeling like?
That's a good question. See, actually at the time, right, I think the really nasty thing was not known. I'm so grateful that I had like really good friends and family around me. Like, it was, so the NHS were not going to give me surgery.
Yeah.
And they weren't going to send me for an MRI. So I see at the time I was just always thinking about, and I remember it so well, what is the next thing I need to do to get this right? So it was like, right, the NHS, right, get pain management from the NHS, right, the NHS are sending me for an X-ray, right, get the X-ray results back. And it was mad because I went for a private MRI, and the guy privately had accessed my medical files, and he told me the results of my X-ray before the NHS even contacted me. It just shows you how broken the system is. And I'm not bitter about it. It's not anyone in the NHS's fault. It's just a system that's buckling under the weight of what's on it. So it was always, my whole mindset at the time was just get to the next thing. So when I found out, NHS got the X-ray, it was fine. I knew I didn't have any structural damage to my bones, but then it was a case of I need an MRI, but to get an MRI and the X-ray, you need to do physio for months to try and resolve it through non-invasive methods. But I'd already done 8 months of physio to try and resolve it from having a herniated disc.
Yeah.
So I knew that I wasn't going to sort it. So then it was like, I need to get an MRI privately. So then it was about, right, I had the quickest place I could get a private MRI was outside of Edinburgh. So I got in the fetal position in my mate's car.
Yeah.
Shout out Bebo if he's listening, man. I love that guy. He's got a nice car, and I'm like in the fetal position, bombing down the M8, like going in for this MRI. And then a day later, they were like, yeah, large paracentral extrusion, L5S1. And then I actually tore my labral as well, which is my left hip, because my body had been pulling itself out of position as well for so long, trying to just dodge the pain and the compression in my spine, that like I'd actually torn a muscle in my hip as well. But then it was like, right, now I've got this, because initially I thought maybe I'll just need cortisone injection or something like that, but because it had been so long, it wasn't gonna work for me. It basically needed surgical intervention.
Yeah.
So once I got the MRI, it was like, right, use the power of my network to find out who is the best surgeon for this in Scotland, and just work out a way to do it. So I found out who that was. It was a guy called Dr. Foyas. Again, shout out to him, man. And I actually knew a few people that knew him. So I was just like harassing, hunting him down, like get me in for a consultation as soon as possible. Sat me down. So that ended up being, I think, 8 days after my MRI. In total, I went from MRI consultation, then Dr. Foyas was like, I mean, as I was saying to you before, like I lost feeling in my left foot. I didn't have a left ankle reflex.
Yeah.
My nerve root had been compressed for so long, I was losing, like, because obviously it's the nerves that are taking the signals to the muscles from the brain, so the signals are not going down. So I was experiencing like massive atrophy. Like my glutes are hilarious right now. Like my right side is a lot bigger than my left. It looks ridiculous. But so the whole thing was just get through it as quickly as possible. So I think that the extrusion happened about the 30th of March, and I was operated on the 29th of April. So my whole thing the whole time was, right, the mindset was find out the next thing I need to do and just gun towards that. But initially the surgery might have been 2 or 3 weeks in advance in May, and genuinely by the end of it I was thinking to myself, I don't know if I can actually do this, like how am I going to get through it. It was like very much one day at a time. What is the thing that I can do today that will progress this forward? It was a mad time. That's a long answer, but
Yeah.
lots of context, I guess.
But it's fine. It's finding your own way, I guess. Like, sometimes you need to do that, and like, it sounds like you done it. Like very
You're forced to do it in that situation, aren't you? You're forced to make the decision. What do you do? Do you mope about, or do you try and make something of it?
I feel like a healthy man has many wants. Like an unhealthy man has one. Like we all are full of ambition.
Yeah.
And that's good. Like it's amazing. I think that's such a good thing. But it's amazing that, like, I always think about it. You meet a 55-year-old guy, right? Very wealthy guy, but maybe unhealthy. If you said to him you've got to give up everything to be 25 and healthy again, I'm sure that 99.9% of those people would do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's so true. What have you been thinking about, and what are you now looking forward to coming off the back of the surgery? Like, obviously you're still going to be rehabbing for a little while, but what are you, once that's finished, what are you looking forward to doing, to getting back into?
I'm in that. So I'm still in that phase of being grateful for like everything.
Yeah.
So I think when I'm at so I read a lot of books.
Yeah.
As we probably will cover off. I've covered off. I really used that as an opportunity to just try and learn and to kind of look inward and read about different things. And one of the quote that I read that resonated with me the most from that period was from Eckhart Tolle's A New Earth. It was like the fire of suffering can become the light of consciousness, and I'm really. The underlying message there is like whatever you're going through, you can, I kept on saying to people in the message me on Instagram, being like, how you doing? But like transforming pain into purpose, that's alchemy. And that's personal alchemy, like on a personal level, in terms of taking whatever it is that you've gone through, and rather than letting that make you bitter towards the world or anyone in it, and saying, oh, why has this happened to me? It's like, well, I can take from this and actually allow this to shape me in a positive way. I actually think it's probably made me a better version of myself. It's trimmed back some of the fat around my personality and just really forced me to evaluate what's really important. Because my 3 biggest reflections from my time on the floor, kind of pre-surgical intervention, was number 1, like, the most important thing in your life is your health. Everything else feels not unimportant when you're not healthy.
Yeah.
Number 2, who you're surrounded by is actually kind of really important as well. So like friends, family, like who basically show up for you when the chips are down.
Yeah.
I feel like that is so important, and made me really realise who's there, and actually so many people were, which was really lovely. That was actually quite heartwarming.
Yeah.
And then just to be grateful as well, like, and this what you're saying in terms of what am I looking forward to, it's the segue into that. I was saying to you before, like I couldn't drive for 2 months, couldn't sit for 2 months, walking and getting a coffee on a Saturday morning.
Yeah.
Grateful for that. Grateful to give my mum a hug. Like, it's just the little things. So don't get me wrong. I'm really, I've got a 6 month rehab ahead, of which I'm into week 5, coming up for week 6. So it's like I'm not doing that much yet, but like, yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting back to training and all that. But like, see, even I wasn't in the office for my job for 2.5 months. So even just getting a couple hours a week in the office, seeing my colleagues, spending time with friends, getting fresh air, like really reinforces gratitude for the little things, which is good. Which is a good practice to have anything anyway, but like really doubles it down.
Yeah. It's so cool to think like it's an opportunity to level up. Like you've clearly leveled up from this bad situation, and I think it's a great example to show people like it doesn't need to be like an injury. It can be like a really tough time in life.
Yeah.
You might feel like there's nowhere from that place, but just like your situation shows that you can turn a bad situation into a good situation if you look at it the right way, if that makes sense. So I think that's class, mate. So cool.
I think there's always something you can do. This is what I realised. I mean, again, I caveat this heavily with the fact that like pre-surgery, man, I was living as badly as you could. I was just trying to get through, and I think that there's something to be said for sometimes in life when the chips are really down, it is just about getting through day by day. But it's never going to be like that forever. And when the veil lifts and you have the opportunity to progress forward positively, it's like, what can you do? It's like, right, I can't walk.
Yeah.
I can't train. And I think I've said it to you maybe on the last podcast, and it's something that I really passionately believe in, that like mind, body, spirit, it's all one.
Yeah.
Like it's a kind of oneness, a wholeness. So it's like, right, I can't train the body. Right? We've accepted that that's going to be like that for a period. How can I train my mind? What mindfulness practice can I do? What can I learn about that will, help shape me? And it's not about being, doing something productive all the time, but maybe just taking a more holistic view of health and well-being, in the sense that like when you're physically incapable, your mind is what you have. So I saw it as an opportunity probably to as I say, deepen my meditative practice, read a lot. I'm lucky that when my parents are, is kind of in nature, so it was like just very quiet and restful and serene. It's interesting as well because when you're coming off that amount of prescription drugs, and your body is just after like a general anaesthetic and surgery, like you just feel kind of bad anyway. So like looking inward, I feel like at that time, and like really getting in tune with your body and how it feels and your emotions and your thoughts and feelings and how they manifest in the physical body was just really a good thing to do. But as you rightly point out, I'm firmly in the camp that like there's always something you can do, and some days 100% effort looks like a meditation, reading 10 pages of a book, but it's about doing something, not nothing.
Totally.
Yeah.
100%.
And one thing that I know that you chat about a lot, but I want to ask you about how, like, what did you learn from looking inward? I know that you say you're the observer of your thoughts, which I read as well in Clarity, and it really, really stuck with me at that moment. And I need to remind myself on a daily basis sometimes when my thoughts get in the way and I start believing the thoughts, that the thoughts aren't actually real and that you're actually the observer of the thoughts behind them. Is that something that you learned through meditation, through looking inward?
Yeah, I feel like philosophy and mindfulness is like it's something I can talk about, but like the deeper I'm going down, the more I intuitively understand it. And I think it's such a powerful thing to realize about the human experience, that like how best to articulate it. I always like to think about it in terms of a metaphor, in the sense of like, imagine our brain or our consciousness is the sky and our thoughts are the clouds, and they're just kind of passing through. And like you can get caught up in one and start like looking at one as it goes around you, but like you can hop off that at any time. Or like being at the side of the road and you're looking at all the cars driving past, and that's all your thoughts, and you're the person at the side just looking at the cars, and sometimes you accidentally get in a car and you get driven far away. But it's always about coming back to a singular point of focus. So like typically in mindfulness practice, meditation, that can be the breath, or it can be different things. It can be like a mantra, whatever. But really starting to understand, like, human beings fundamentally, we all have thoughts that we don't like, that make us feel uncomfortable. So like understanding that, number one, everyone has those thoughts, and number two, that those thoughts don't reflect you as a person. It's your emotions, perceptions, experiences and feelings of life that you've had that will generate that in the brain, and that actually you don't have to engage with them. They're not actually reflective of who you are. That's just it's just conditioning, if you like. So yeah, taking a step back and realize that you're the observer, I think, is hugely powerful, for sure.
Yeah, totally, 100%, mate. I think that's probably one of the most important things that you need to focus on in life. I think for me personally, I think that you can't get past a certain stage if you don't focus on like the mind, because I'm the exact same. I'll come back from like a really good event, or like something that's really like spiked my dopamine, for example, and I'll struggle to get back into the routine. But it's just like kind of remembering that your thoughts aren't you. You're just, as you say, the observer of your thoughts. So I think that's class.
I think one of my it's a powerful thing, and I think as well, as I've kind of said before, just being able to sit in stillness with yourself is it's just such a hugely powerful tool. Like, modern society, like, we're never bored now, right? Because the way that smartphones are, this is a slight segue, but I think it's why mindfulness is more important than ever. Like, see, when you know, 20 years ago, if you were in the queue at a coffee shop, you would just have a moment to be bored and sit with your thoughts. Now, in that same time, you're on the phone, or if you're in traffic, or whatever you're doing, like, they're like mental pacifiers for adults. Like, you always have to be distracted. You never actually have to sit with your own thoughts. But I don't think that that's a healthy thing. It's good to be bored. It's good to let your mind process things, and it's good to sit in stillness. But because we live in basically an attention economy, like when things like Instagram, TikTok, and that, when they're free, you're the product. They're monetizing your attention, right? So they're designed to be as addictive as possible, and that's fine. I don't think there's anything overtly nefarious about that. But on the flip side of that, it does mean that we lose the capacity to just sit in the stillness within ourselves, compared to even what just never mind someone that was practicing mindfulness, as I would be now, but just like compared to the average person in society 25 years ago.
Because that is the biggest reason why people can't be mindful, is because of the phones, and I'm so conscious of that. Like walking past like people and stuff like that, either on their phones, they've got earphones in, headphones in. No one can actually like just be them with nothing attached to them, I feel like. So yeah, it's insane.
Presence is a superpower, I think, in modern society. And I think that the more mindfulness you do, you become more compassionate and empathetic towards yourself, and by doing that you become more compassionate and empathetic towards others, and because of that you're naturally able to show up in the world in a more authentic way. I think I put this in my story the other day, that I feel most strongly about mindfulness is that, and I read it in Chad Mentang's book, Search Inside Yourself. Chad Mentang was one of the first employees at Google, and he brought mindfulness to one of the largest corporates in the world, right? And why I think that's super interesting is I think that people have this idea in their head that people, to be mindful, to be meditating is about being a monk, or in Nepal or something like that, or in Japan or whatever it is. But in reality, mindfulness is for the everyman, and given what we've just talked about, it's kind of more important than ever. And in it, he discusses this idea that, like, see, even like you guys training in this gym, or Dale, Ryan, whatever, like 50 years ago, you would be like in the top 0.1% fittest people in society, man. Like, gyms, physical fitness, training, the way that training is perceived in society now is taken on a totally different level in the last kind of 50 years or so. It's like Hyrox. You've seen like guys that have day-to-day jobs and that doing these events, and they're like so fit and so strong. So many people compared to 50 years ago. And it is because intuitively I think we understand that like fitness will make us feel good, and it's such a massive part of culture and society now. My prediction, and it's based on that book, is that in 50 years' time we will see mindfulness in the same way as we see physical training now. Because I think that, as I said to you before, like 50 years ago, gyms were seen as like weird places, like leisure centres. Like David Lloyd, I think, was founded in like the 1980s. Like bodybuilding was like this super niche thing until kind of Arnold blew up and took the Olympia worldwide in the 70s and 80s. Like, it was quite a niche, almost like subculture of society, and now it's just like massive, it's pervasive, it's everywhere, and I think that's a good thing. I think that's what we're seeing now with mindfulness, and I'm hopeful that my prediction is that in 50 years we'll see mindfulness in the same way that we see fitness.
I think that would be even more impactful on society because of, like, for example, your fitness, you kind of borrow your fitness. You get to a certain point where your body starts deteriorating as you get older.
Yeah.
Whereas your mind, I feel, is just like a compounding asset. Like you get wisdom as you get older, but staying present, being mindful is such a huge part of that, I think. And yeah, that'd be interesting to think of. What do you make it? You said you made it as a daily practice. You make sure you get it in, but you don't routine it, do you?
Nah, I think I have more routine that recently. So I've completed 10,500 minutes of meditation the last few years across something like 900 different settings, right? And the apps I use are Headspace, which is, if you're listening to this and want an actionable insight, Headspace is kind of better for beginners, I would say. And I use another app called Open that's a bit more expensive, and it's probably a little bit more niche and involved and a lot more intuitive with things like breath work and different types of practices and meditation, whereas Headspace is purely what's called mindfulness meditation, singular point of focus meditation, which is probably the easiest to do. So I use Headspace and Open. I've meditated 10 to 20 minutes a day for years, but in the last 5 weeks I've been doing an hour and a half to 2 hours a day. Yeah. So I've had the time to do it to really deepen my practice. And look, as I get back to normal life, that will not be sustainable. Yeah. But I always think, generally speaking, with habit forming, it's good to stack habits and have them at different times that work for you. If you find a space that works for you, great. I just find with the meditation that it's good to do it in the morning to set the day, or maybe in the evening. I don't know. That's a bit of a woolly answer to the question. Find the space.
So when you are meditating, how do you feel after it? What do you feel like you get from meditating? How would the practice be? Talk us through what you would do to meditate, and then after that meditation session, how does it make you feel?
Present, in tune with myself, very peaceful. I think the thing about meditation, right, when people they sit down to do a meditation for the first time, I'm having all these thoughts. But that's a good thing. Most people never realize or never take the time to label their thinking or to observe their thoughts. So some days you sit down, right, and it's like light. It's like it's the exact same as fitness in the sense that some days you have a really good session and you're that was whammy, and some days I come out of meditation, I'm like, wow, I feel so centered, I feel amazing. And some days I come out of meditation, I'm like, just like a fitness session, I'm like, I felt quite distracted today. It was quite hard to find focus. There's a lot of different things going on in my day, but that is literally the point. As we've discussed before, it's easy to show up and easy to enjoy the good meditation when you feel good, but it's more important and more valuable and harder when you are feeling mega distracted, overstimulated, to still just sit and observe your thoughts and be like, well, man, I'm doing a lot of thinking. And actually, if you can get in that habit of, even if it's 10 minutes and I'm just every couple of seconds, I'm getting lost in thinking, as long as I can keep observing it, that's still good meditation. So I think it's, like anything, mate, it can be good or bad, and the important thing is to just continue to do it.
I think it's like gym sessions as well, in the sense of it all compounds.
100%.
Because even if it is good or bad, you're still getting closer to where you kind of want to be when it comes to meditation. So it's you could tie that in similar with physical training. Every session matters, no matter how long it is, no matter how good you felt during it or how bad you felt during it. It all just kind of leads to that one big change, I think.
100%. You talked earlier about fitness being rented, not bought. And I think mindfulness is the same.
Totally.
You just got to keep doing it.
I think it's a good thing for life. Play in decades. You want to be a mindful, present person. You need to become someone that meditates. You want to be a fit and healthy person. You need to become someone that goes to the gym and eats healthy food. It's not rocket science.
Yeah.
It's easy to understand, but maybe sometimes hard to do.
Yeah, so true. I touch on something that we're all have been in periods of, or are currently in periods of, and that's sobriety. That's something that we wanted to chat about a little bit. This is more going to be a little bit more open now, but I'm actually coming up to a year think it's the 25th of June. I'm going to be a year sober, and I've now got to the stage where I don't have any sort of anxiety towards it. Towards, like, for example, we've got that Sin 12 night tonight, and in the past I would have had the thoughts of being, oh, like, I can't be in that situation and be sober, which we've spoke about in the past. You've done stints of sobriety before, pretty long stints. What did you find? Like, how did you feel in that process? Like, from the start, like maybe during it, and then at the end.
I'm such a massive advocate for sobriety. Like, as you say, like I did 9 months last year. It was 6 months the year before. I did 9 months, 20 to 21, and really my view on it kind of comes from quite aligned with Chris Williamson, Modern Wisdom. Like, if you aren't where you want to be in life, or you're not showing up in life as the person that you'd like to be, sometimes it's not about adding things in, but subtracting things from your life instead. So, and one of a really good quote that I like is, like, the best programmers in the world that are like building websites, apps, whatever. Sometimes the quickest line of code is no code. So sometimes it's like The Essentialism by Greg McKeown, one of my favorite books of all time. It's like, what can you take away from your life that will make it better? Because people are always thinking about add, consume, more. But actually, it's about what can you take away to make things better. So I think my thing on alcohol, sobriety in general as a topic is taking away alcohol in itself is a massive self-development tool, because you're giving back to yourself time, money, rest, recovery. And again, I think it's so easy, and it's so pervasive in society in the west of Scotland. Like, we drink to celebrate, we drink to commiserate, we drink for a good time, we drink for a bad time. And a lot of the time for some people it's just unquestioning. It's like not questioning the narrative, but it doesn't need to be like that. Like, I found that, and I have a much better relationship with alcohol. I've drank like 2 or 3 times this year, for example. I'm not now, of course, because anything like that would impede to my recovery. But I have a much better relationship with alcohol now generally. I mean, there's so many different things you could unpack, but I think that if you're sober curious, then just do a stint, but do a stint long enough to affect real change. So, like, as you say, I've done like 6, I've not quite done a year yet, but maybe I will do that at some point, but like a 6 month or a 9 month. And sit in, and when you start, I think you'll find it, like, as you say, like, first week or two, you're like sitting in on a Friday night and be like, you feel anxious?
Yeah.
You feel like you have FOMO, like you have those, like, that bit of anxiety. I think this is the mindfulness thing in terms of being able to sit with uncomfortable feelings and recognise them. Like, it all ties into each other. So I'm a massive advocate of it, yeah.
The way I've always thought about it, I've been sober for a long time now, and the way I like to think about it is, it's hard to get away from, but when you're away from it, it's easy to stay away. I found that like I was August of 2023.
Amazing.
So in August that'll be 2 years, and it's weird for me because I'll be honest, I regularly have like questions in my head like, oh, should I do this? Should I go out? Should I drink? Should I break the cycle? Because I'll be fully honest in that. It's like me saying that. And I think it's because I'm a little bit younger, if I'm being honest.
Definitely.
Because I'm 21. I know both of you guys, when you guys were 21, were probably out fucking partying and shit.
You've done a lot better than I was at 21, man.
You done a lot of shit when you were 21.
Yeah.
You said both you old guys.
you old ass
If
motherfuckers.
you know, man. Maybe someone listening to this. I've lived a life in that
regard. So I regularly, like, even me coming here this morning, I got that thought of like, oh, Sin 12's happening tomorrow. Tonight, should I drink? And the answer is always no, because I always come back at it in a sense of like, is that going to help me move forward? Is that going to like have a positive effect on my goals? And do I really want to feel like that the next morning? And the answer is no. Like, they're not going to help me whatsoever, and that just makes it so easy for me. So I think about just thinking about the bigger picture and like really realising, is that going to impact me in a negative way to where I can't show up for myself, is a massive thing for me.
Do you know what's so interesting? And I'll just bring it back to the last topic of conversation quickly. Do you realise that what you're doing there is practicing mindfulness? Because we have something, right? It's called metacognition. And what metacognition essentially means is thinking about thoughts. So many people have that thought that you're talking about now about drinking, and they immediately act, right, on having that thought. They're not able to critically analyse their own thinking in their head. They just jump in the car, they jump on the cloud, and they get swept away and they go and drink. That is a mindfulness practice. It's like Viktor Frankl in Man's Search for Meaning, right? He talks a lot about the space between stimulus and response. Yeah. So we have inputs coming in to our bodies and our brains and outputs going out. And for something like mindfulness for me is about, a lot of it is about making the gap between stimulus and response bigger, right? So when you have an intrusive thought like that, you're able to be like, that's interesting, why am I having that thought? Like, what's driving that? What is subconsciously underpinning that? So what you're doing there is actually a form of mindfulness practice, what's called metacognition, which is, you're doing it without realising it, and it's super interesting.
That's one of the biggest things for me this year, is actually doing that, because obviously starting with a coach like RFA and stuff like that, that's been the biggest change in myself I've found, is like processing my thoughts when it comes to making my bed in the morning. Before, I would see my bed messy and I'd be like, that's messy, cool, gone. So I've not thought about that whatsoever. But now I'm looking at my bed when it's messy and I'm like, and I'm processing the thought of, oh, should I leave that? And then it's like, no, I'm going to make that, because again, providing evidence to show that I'm the person that shows up for myself. And we spoke about this last podcast, or 2 podcasts ago, about being the person who you say you are. And that's probably the biggest thing for me, is doing the things that I said I was going to do. So, and that comes into like being sober, because people ask me, oh, are you drinking? I'm like, I don't drink. I'm the type of person that doesn't drink. Do you know what I mean? It's not, I'm not having a drink. It's not, oh, I'm off it. It's,
You're not leaving any space for questioning or doubt.
Exactly.
It's a statement, not a question.
Exactly. I'm not. It's the difference between I'm not drinking tonight to I don't drink whatsoever, and then you can't dispute it after that.
It's like you were talking before about make your bed. One of the things I passionately believe in is how you do anything is how you do everything.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if it's making your bed or making a podcast. Like, who are you when no one's looking?
Exactly.
Yeah. That comes back to, there's a study that's very, very similar to what you're talking about. It's about smokers trying to quit.
I'm joking, I actually do love smoking. So I wish it wasn't bad for you. It's actually so annoying how good it is.
And it says about the people who are trying to quit and the success rate of people who are trying to quit, who take it as an identity, and those who don't. So people who, when someone offers them a cigarette, is, I'm trying to quit smoking, versus I don't smoke anymore. It's that statement piece, it's that identity piece of, I'm not, like, I don't do that anymore. And it's such a huge thing that I think is overlooked a lot. And it's the same, it goes back to like that earlier, I'm now going to identify as a fit and healthy person. Like, you need to have that identity shift, and is something that like people just think, oh right, I'll start going to the gym. That's something we do a lot in our coaching. You need to believe that you are now a fit and healthy person. You have changed.
I think that's the reason why you've came out of this kind of whole surgery thing like so good, because you've got that period of time of showing yourself what type of person you are. So when you come into that period, you're like, I've done this before. I'm the type of person that like reads instead of doom scrolls. I'm the type of person that does everything they possibly can to get into a better state, and that's what makes it easy for you to come out of that in the best possible position. So that's what I'm thinking with that situation.
I think that's a lovely compliment, and I appreciate it, and that's probably how I've tried to look at it. I think, again, to tie it back to the mindfulness thing, what you're talking about is our whole lives are just made up of continuing nows, like present moment, right? So it's like you start making decisions, as you say, from a place of identity change, and it's the being before becoming thing, which I love, by the way. I think it's such a relevant point, right? But you start making decisions, like, the way to describe it is, be a friend to yourself. I think this is what mindfulness and meditation teaches you, like, actually be a friend to yourself. Like, I guess in one of Jordan Peterson's books, 12 Rules for Life, it's like the statistics around people that feed their pets medication to get them through enough, so it's like 100%, like we're like near enough 100%, right? And for human beings, it's so low for us. Sometimes we're really good at being a friend to other people, and really compassionate and empathetic and helpful, and we want to go out of our way to help others, but our internal dialogue to ourselves is challenging. And this is what I'm saying in terms of search inside yourself, peace, and it's like, actually be a friend to yourself. Make decisions around alcohol, sobriety, around eating, around training that you'll thank yourself for, that tomorrow you'll thank yourself for.
Yeah, that's something I've really noticed with myself as well, like giving people the advice that I probably could have done with
100%.
Before. Like, it's so easy to give your friend the best possible advice, but when it comes to yourself,
Harder to take,
it's the hardest to take. Do you know what I mean? Because it's you at the end of the day, and I totally agree with that.
I think to kind of tie off the sobriety, and by the way, again, amazing points, is I think we're 3 very aligned individuals in terms of our thinking and stuff, which is good, to make for a good conversation. But like, I think the sobriety thing for me is, again, it ties into the mindfulness thing again. I feel like everything comes back to it today clearly, but like, do you know who you are in social settings without the social lubricant of alcohol? I actually prefer myself as a person when I'm not drinking. Doesn't mean that I can't occasionally like see friends and on a very, very special occasion have a couple of beers and I'd be okay with it now, but like most of the time I actually prefer the person I am when I'm not drinking, and I feel more comfortable being in social settings now. It goes to full way. Like once you get over that initial anxiety, you sit with that uncomfortable feeling of that we've all done. I feel like it's just like anything, like the reward is there on the other side of the rainbow. And if you want to get to know yourself a little bit more intimately and understand what type of person that you are, removing distractions that distract you from having to confront those thoughts, doom scrolling, alcohol, hangover, hijacking your dopamine with whatever, you know, it could be nicotine, junk food, you know, drugs, whatever it is, like to start to get to know yourself, you need to take away the veil of distraction.
Yeah.
And taking alcohol out is, even if just for a bit, like, I think the thing is, and it is shifting, like there is that initial piece of like, oh, you must be an alcoholic. It's like, even if you have a slightly problematic relationship with alcohol, you're not an alcoholic, but it's actually like, as Aidan said, like, is it something that serves me? I always thought about it as, if I'm here and I want to get to here, is alcohol going to take me this way or this way?
Yeah.
Because it's not even just the drinking itself, it's the 2 days that you lose afterwards, it's the calories, it's the lack of sleep. Like if you want to be someone that is fit and strong and healthy and showing up as yourself, you're just constantly taking yourself further away. And we all have habits, good or bad. This is the thing, like the world isn't good or bad. You talk about labels, right? Mm-hmm. The universe itself isn't thinking like alcohol's good or bad, it just is. It's up to us to attach that label to it. Yeah. So once you detract from that, you just say no.
That's a really good way of putting it, in terms of like, you could go around your full day thinking like that, in terms of, does this bring me closer to where I want to be, or does it bring me further back? Like, you could approach every situation with that. Like, there's a chocolate bar on the table. Does that bring me closer to my goals, or does it take me further back? Things like that. It's so easy to think about it that way, I think.
Yeah, and I always caveat all this stuff with saying, like, I'm not saying that every human being should live like a monk. You shouldn't deprive yourself of pleasure, and you shouldn't delay gratification to eternity, right? So you never get any enjoyment out of life. All I'm kind of saying is that if you aren't where you'd like to be in life, or you feel like you would like to better yourself, there are things that you can do to start on that journey. And the other interesting thing about identity change and alcohol and fast food is, see, if you say, I'm not a drinker, I'm not going to drink, then you don't spend 10 hours of a Friday thinking, oh, am I going to drink or not? You don't waste all the mental energy on that. So when the mindfulness comes in again, if you just say, I'm not going to drink, I'm not going to eat a takeaway, that's that. You're not wasting your mental energy about that. You can think about other stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true, because it can be, I remember at the start,
you can let it consume you.
Yeah.
Again, jumping in the cars, jumping in the clouds, letting the thoughts run away from you. It's that identity shifts that come from saying, I'm not a drinker.
Yeah. Let's touch on some books.
Cool.
Yeah.
Let's riff on some books. Obviously, you had like a lot of time on your hands, and I know you were reading a lot. I was loving your reviews on the stories. So me and him both were chatting about it.
How many was it? How many in total books did you read?
20 in 3 weeks.
Yeah, so that's a lot of books. And has physical books as well. That wasn't audible, was it?
Yeah, I actually, I mean, I might be in the minority here, but again, I just really want the analogue of like coffee and cigarette instead of Red Bull and vape. You know what I mean? But like for a book as well, like it feels nice to hold something real, and I can get a highlighter out and I can just sit and ruminate on it. Then, but it's a lot of books. The reason I was thinking like that is, number one, I would usually be working a lot. Obviously, I have a successful corporate career that I really enjoy, and I had 8 hours a day. And the thing about phone as well is that like all my friends, or I think all my friends are employed. So between the hours of 9 and 5 anyway, when you're rehabilitating, there's no one to speak to. And in the morning, people are getting ready. So like I'm not saying like don't be on your phone ever. Like I would catch up with people at night, and that was a nice time. But you see, during the day, this is the part when I was like, I'm getting paid my salary to do nothing. So like that is a unique opportunity. So I might as well do something that is of some kind of benefit to me as a human being.
Yeah.
Because usually I would be working and then going to the gym. I couldn't do either of those things. So I was like, right, if during the working day I'm reading and I'm meditating, and then in the evening I'm on my phone, I'm catching up or whatever, or just spending time with family, whatever I was doing, like that's an okay split. That's a better balance. Is that your question?
Well, I'm going to touch on it's like a 95 for personal development.
Yeah.
That's exactly what you've done.
Unique opportunity.
Yeah.
Like health is such a unique opportunity.
Yeah. Let's touch on some books that had a kind of profound impact on you. Maybe just one or a couple. But what springs to mind when I ask that question?
The first one is Into the Magic Shop by James Doty,
Yeah.
which I recommended to you, which I really love. Just nice storytelling, but like the underlying message of the power of mindfulness really resonated with me. My mum bought me that book before I went into hospital, and it's the only book that I took in hospital. So when I had my first couple of days in hospital to start, I was kind of reading it first. I think just even at that moment that I was coming out, it's like timing in life and again attaching meaning to things. I think even as I was just kind of coming out, it was the right book at the right time to remind me of the power of compassion as mindfulness. Like I always think in life, like books, podcasts, conversations, sometimes they find you when you need them.
Yeah.
And that was maybe a little bit of that for me. So yeah, Into the Magic Shop, if you want to understand a little bit around how mindfulness can apply in a real world setting, and also intersect with the trappings and the blessings of material success. I think this is my other thing as well. I'm not some kind of mystic yogi in a mountain somewhere. I'm someone trying to live a successful corporate life, fitness life, all this stuff as well. I'm just using mindfulness as a tool, as an aid, and I think that book covers that really nicely, so it really resonated. I know that I've recommended it to you as well.
Yeah, I read it when I was in Greece and it was great. I always feel like when I'm on holiday, I read more often. Obviously,
Yeah, yeah.
I've got more time on my hands.
Yeah.
Like over that, I think I was away 12 days and I read 4 books during that time as well. And it's like that book was very profound as well because it speaks a lot. It's a story. I love books like that because it's so easy to read, but it's so easy to pull the lessons from as well because you see yourself as that person in the book.
100%.
And that one was incredible, so I would definitely recommend that as well. I sent it over to you as well,
Yeah.
but you've got a few
recommendations
recommendations to
I've
get
got a
through.
few to catch up on.
Yeah, I think that as well. I think one that two that I've mentioned in this podcast various times in terms of Search Inside Yourself, the Chad Mentang, like the easiest introduction to meditation that you'll ever get. I've recommended this out a lot to people as well, like people that are like, you're meditating a lot, how do I start, what's it like? Download Headspace, maybe download Open if you're feeling a bit more adventurous, and buy Search Inside Yourself by Chad Mentang. A couple 100 pages, easy to read, and will really help you understand the key tenets of kind of meditation and mindfulness and how you can apply that to day-to-day life, even as someone that's an engineer working at Google.
Yeah.
And then loads, mate. Like I'm quite tactical in terms of taking recommendations. How many do you want?
I want to hear a little bit about School of Life. I've just started reading that, and I know that you recommend
I've just finished it for the second time.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, this is the thing. I've been back in Glasgow 10 days. I've been reading that book. It's taken me about a week.
Yeah.
And I'll slowly phase out. I reckon I'll get back to my normal kind of 1 or 2 a month, like 20 pages a day, kind of average. I feel like it's obviously unsustainable to read 20 books in 21 days. I doubt I'll ever do that again. But Alain de Botton is an incredibly profound writer, I think. I think School of Life is it's an emotional education. It's trying to, again, tying into a lot of the conversations that I've had with you guys on this podcast myself recently in terms of looking within and trying to just get a better sense of self and thinking about the self in the context of relationships, culture, and work. He's a really good writer. I've read the Constellations of Philosophy as well, which I absolutely loved. So, yeah, Alain de Botton, I think he probably really appeals to me in terms of his easy reading, but philosophically quite profound.
Yeah.
And modern as well, like obviously I guess some of the heavier reading, kind of heavier hitting philosophy and psychology books, like reading Carl Jung and Schadenfreude and Soren Kierkegaard and all that can be pretty heavy duty, like even for me as someone who's reads a lot, so like having someone that's able to distill complex philosophical lessons into easy to read, ideas and spin them into like nice to consume narratives, I think is a good thing. But yeah, Alain de Botton, I cannot recommend. I'm kind of on a bit of a Alain de Botton crusade at the moment. So
Yeah.
as I said, I read it, finished it for the second time, and I got more out of it the second time.
Yeah. Because I have just started it, and I'm maybe only 20 pages in, and started yesterday, and I obviously seen your recommendation. However, I really connected with him on Modern Wisdom.
Yeah.
It was really good on that, and he just said things in certain ways that I just thought, wow, that properly hit. It's a certain way he speaks. But yeah, any books you've been reading recently?
Mate, see, to be honest, I think that I'm more of a. I've been I just got audible. I'm more of a Red Bull and vape type of guy. But nah, I think that we were both listening to the same book at the same time. How Bad Do You Want It? And that's a big thing for me. I think it's because we were going to Hyrox and we were on the lead up to it, and we really wanted to kind of chime into that mental side of things. But it also just like it comes into your life. It's it comes in your life without fitness there. For like how bad do you want to progress in life is the kind of things I'm taking away from it. But I've not been reading too much books, to be honest. I've been doom scrolling a wee bit. But yeah, I've not been reading much books.
It's interesting you say, but probably the last thing, obviously you've been killing it in the Hyrox space, and it's really interesting.
Yeah, we get to talk about that.
It was interesting to see kind of the narrative online around Hyrox. I find it really fascinating, a really fascinating display of like how humans act and think with each other. But like obviously you guys have been killing it, and it's amazing to see how fit you are, man. I'm going to be coming back. I think we were talking about this before, even in terms of the Kaizen and to training my friends, and I've had like I won't have run in like a year by the time I run, and like we're trained functionally in like a year. I've just been doing field rehab, so I feel like everyone's been leveling up on the fitness side, and I might be the most present guy in the world, but I'm going to have some work to do in the gym. But
I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
Why do you think Hyrox is so popular?
I think Hyrox is so popular because it gives people the opportunity to experience what it is like to live their dreams for a day. Like how many people grow up wanting to be professional athlete, adulation. So Andy Warhol's thing about in the 80s, obviously like famous American artist, he said in the future everyone will have their 15 minutes of fame. I think it's what we see with the rise of like influencers and like niche topics, stuff like that, and Hyrox plays into that so much as well, in the sense of it gives people the sense of what it's like to be a famous athlete without actually having to be a famous athlete. And I think that's a good thing. I think it's like any activity that's encouraging people to be fitter, I think, or healthier should be celebrated. But yeah, it's like with the music and the crowds, I think Hyrox gives people that feeling of being able to like be a star. I think also that's maybe a slightly more philosophical kind of musing on it. I think it's highly accessible as well. I think obviously CrossFit had a bit of its moment, but CrossFit movements are hard. They aren't for the everyman. Like someone of a moderate level of fitness with a little bit of instruction could complete a Hyrox tomorrow. I think that's part of the appeal. You can do it, and I think it's just again finding something like that where it's so community based. Like I really firmly believe that we are as a society transitioning towards that. We have got this like final stage capitalism push away from social media and paid ads and all that stuff to like people are craving the in real life community. So it's like the run clubs thing, the Hyrox thing, it's like you have Hyrox gyms, people all competing together, and it really brings people together. So I think it's multifaceted, but I think probably it's the feeling it gives people of being famous or a part of something that's bigger from a cultural perspective, but also the accessibility and the community elements of it are massive too. It's a bit of a long answer again.
Well, why do you think it gets so much hate?
It's such a good question, man, and I find it fascinating. Like, I think anything popular gets hate because it's easy to tear things down. It's cheap. Like you don't get, it's like tall poppy syndrome in this country. Like you don't typically get people that are ahead of you tearing you down. I think it's just Hyrox is just a cheap thing to hit on. I think it's actually morally quite reprehensible to attack anything that is encouraging people to live a better version of their lives. Like if Hyrox is transitioning people into being functionally fit, and look, I get it, like anything, like the people that like only do that and make it their whole personality, of course it's a bit annoying, but why do you care? I think a wider point, whenever anyone is attacking someone else, they're just projecting their own insecurities, so you won't see mega fit people attacking it typically. So I think it's an interesting thing, but I think it's a popularity thing, and I think it's an insecurity thing.
Totally, I think it's a UK thing as well. I think that like so many people in the UK have grown up to absolutely slaughter anything that isn't what somebody plays
football. Culture.
Do you know what I mean? It's so true. I think that people are just want to drag people down so much in the UK, and I think it's starting to get better, to be fair, as you were saying, with the run clubs, with things like that. There is a lot of people that are supporting each other and things like that. But
are you a radiator or are you a drain, mate?
Exactly.
Like that's what you see in society. Like I want to be someone that radiates positivity and uplifts people. They don't have time for drains, mate.
Totally.
No, I like that. And we're going to touch on something you said earlier in terms of the community aspect, because a lot of people don't have that, and it's something we obviously drive us in a lot. But even us two, you're saying about us like getting fitter and stuff. That is a lot down to Kaiser and like the people that are there. Like it's such a good community. Friday Night Lights, me and Aidan have been going down for a couple of I've been going down for
years.
Longer than this game.
Yeah. You're an OG, man.
I was actually at the first one club with you.
You are?
Were you, bro?
Oh yeah. You actually were.
I was there.
I was there, so were you?
Were you?
Yeah.
And I came
you
got me on that one then.
I was there, bro. I was by myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's having an environment around you like that is so uplifting, and it's becoming more of a thing. But a lot of people, I think, would benefit massively from being around people who have a different outlook, have a different kind of positive outlook.
It's so cliched, but it's the rule of five. Like you do become what you're surrounded by. And there's a very interesting neurological reason for this, from like a neuroscience perspective, right? We have things in our brain called mirror neurons. Like human beings evolved to live in tribes, and if you faced expulsion from the tribe, that meant almost certain death. Like human beings have been around in our current metaphysical form for about 200,000 years. For 190,000 years, as far as modern, I mean, there's a whole other rabbit hole around the ancient side. I'm not going to do this, but like, accepted science is that for 190,000 of those 200 years, we were essentially hunter-gatherers and only became an arable society about 10,000 years ago, as in farming land, being able to produce excess resource and sell that resource and then build communities from that. I'm telling you that because the human brain is designed that when we feel loneliness, we are under threat, we face expulsion from the tribe, and that means that we're going to die from being attacked by an apex predator, right? That's what it thinks in our head. So we have evolved to mirror what we're around because we want to fit in. This is what people don't realise. This is why it should be so lauded when people succeed in spite of their circumstances rather than because of them. It's so easy, not easy, it's comparatively so much easier to rise up and do this stuff that you're talking about with good people around you, because you're all playing off each other. It is so much harder. Like, if you want to change your life, change your circumstances, change your environment, a beautiful rose does not grow out of concrete, it grows out of a beautiful flower bed, right? So I think that's everything. And even actually through my own recovery, to get right back to the start, like it was the community of friends that I'm sure will be listening to this that I lent on and that were there for me, that are all come from the people that we know and the networks that we know. And I'm like, that was quite a profound experience to have that as well, that they were the people that were really chipping in. Community is so powerful.
That's one thing that I learned really early on in my life, to be honest with you, because I started thinking about like the wrong crowd when I was like 12.
Yeah.
When I was 12, and I got into some like bad shit when I was really, really young. And as I look back on my life and I look back at friend groups and stuff like that, I'm someone that becomes those people instantly. And that's so cool that you talk about like the hunter-gatherer stuff, because I actually listened to that on a podcast. I can't remember what podcast it was, but I can remember someone talking about that, and it's like it sparked in my head. I was like, I do that. We all do. We all do. We all do. And that it made so much sense when I kind of look back on, like, as I say, the friend groups that I've been in, what they've been doing. I turn into that, and I think that's why I'm so successful just now in terms of like for a 21-year-old. In terms of like my life. No, it's arrogant about that. So successful in terms of like the way I want my life to plan out.
Yeah, of course.
It's because I'm surrounded by guys like you, the guys that are a lot older and they've got their shit together and they know exactly what they want and things like that, and that just rubs off on me. That just makes me a lot more secure, and it teaches me every single. I'm learning every single day when I'm here, because like there's people that have got fucking Ryan's 14 years. I hate to rub it in there. Ryan's 14 years older than me, so he's lived like a lot of, like he's made some mistakes. He's lived a serious life, and I'm always learning from you guys.
Become what we're surrounded by.
Totally.
And I think the best advice I can give to people is go and find good people and be around them. That'll uplift you more than anything else. If it comes to everything we've talked about, being mindful, alcohol, sobriety, getting better at Hyrox, anything, like, the person that hangs around with ballers becomes a baller, and the person that hangs around with bums becomes a bum.
Yeah.
It's so hard to achieve great things. And again, I would say why should be lauded if your circumstances and your environment are stacked against you. Like, willpower is a finite resource.
Yeah.
Like, it's not, you overcome situations not by being in the situation and saying no, but just taking yourself out of the situation.
For people out there that are maybe in a situation where they understand that their group is not the group they want to be in, and they want to make a change and they want to find a new group that are going to help them progress and help them work towards where they want to be in life, what would you say to those type of people that are trying to get there?
Act first, worry later. Don't worry about, oh, how will I fit in or how will I show up. Just put yourself in positions of slight uncomfort. Like, nothing changes if nothing changes. So whether you go down to a run club, or whether you come to a new gym, or whether you pick up a new positive hobby in your life, like, it really doesn't matter what it is. Like, I've tried in my life all sorts of different things, and I've failed all sorts of different things, but all of them were just different steps in the journey, and it's not about the journey itself, but the person that you become along the way. So nothing changes if nothing changes. If you're serious about making a positive change in your life, you're going to have to change your circumstances, so you're going to have to fight. You know, it's always that thing, I love always, it's such a good explanation of it. Do you want the pain of change or the pain of staying the same?
Yeah.
You choose.
Yeah.
So I think you just need to, it's also thinking about, right, not just thinking about, right, what do I want to be, but what do I want to be? So you talked about like the metacognition, we talked about like metacognition earlier on in terms of being able to label your thoughts. So it's not just about being, oh yeah, I want to do this weekend. So actually, what do I want to do? You know, who do I want to be? How can I be before I become? Like, so many things we've covered off in this podcast. Like, change has to come from within.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Yeah, change is hard. Like,
Yeah, it is.
It is hard, but like, it comes back to that quote, and it's hard choices, easy life, easy choices, hard life.
Spot on.
It's like, you are going to have all the thoughts of, oh, what if I don't fit in there, or oh, what would my current friend group going to think of me in that situation? And like, that takes you back to mindfulness as well. Like, the thoughts aren't particularly real. There's like, being around a positive group, a positive community of people, there's going to be people who come over to you, and they're going to accept you for who you are. You're there, like, no matter, like, I know a lot of new people come down to Kaizen, they end up becoming a part of that group quickly.
Yeah.
And it happens time and time again.
So it'd probably be the same as sin. When you get a new member join. I think the thing is about all that as well, is like, when you're making change, right, you're the only person that has to live inside your own head. So the only person that actually has to deal with the consequences of your choices and how you feel about them really is you. So what sort of person do you want to be?
Mm-hmm.
I always try and think, now any choice I make, like, I can go to sleep at night thinking that I'm acting in good faith for myself and for those around me that I love and care about. Could I have always said that? Probably not. Not from any badness, just from being misguided and young and stupid. So yeah, I think make decisions that tomorrow you would be happy with.
Love that.
Amen.
Amen indeed. Anything else you want to riff on?
Nah, I think I think we've cooked hard.
We cooked, bro. We cooked.
For anyone who is listening and doesn't know who Harry Young is, where they can find out more information, where can they find you?
You can get me on Instagram and TikTok, just under Harry Young. And if you want to pick up running, feel free to come along to Kaizen. We've got 400 people in that group chat now. We run 3 times a week, build a community and events around uplifting each other. So drop me a note. We're always looking for people to come along. There's only 2 rules. Effort is the only currency, so you got to work hard and treat other people how you want to be treated.
Appreciate you coming on, bro.
Yeah,
Loved it.
appreciate that a
Good
lot.
to see you guys.
Legend.
Man, good luck.